All right, well, welcome everybody. My name is David. I work on the development team at Southwest Human Development. I was on the team that first got to start this endeavor along with Jennifer Blaine Christian, who's been along with us for all 5 of these years, and Beth Rank, who also works at our Adapt Shop. I'll let them introduce themselves. But what we wanted to do today is give you the chance to ask us questions about the challenge. We hope that video was had all the information you needed to move forward, but maybe you're starting to work on your concepts and you're coming up with new ideas and running into questions we had not anticipated. So that's what this is about. It's about giving you guys the chance to ask Beth, Jennifer, and then obviously Reese and Reese's mom there, questions to help you complete and come up with a great solution. So as you can see on the slide here, you can keep your cameras off, totally cool. Everybody's got yourselves muted, great job. But then to ask a question, feel free to do the raise hand. I will be the facilitator, so I'll call on the people as I see hands pop up. You can also type a question into the chat, and then I will read that to our panel to get the answers that you're looking for. We also had a number of questions submitted ahead of time, so we'll kind of get that ball rolling with that. But please, feel free. This is for you guys, especially, you, the ones here, to get the answers that you need. Additionally, we will record this and send it out. So if there's other teachers or students on your team that, weren't able to make it, but they want to watch this to get their questions answered, that's cool too. They'll get that opportunity. So let's do some introductions. Luann, do you want to start since you're the one sending all the emails to them?
Sure. Hello, I'm Luann Phillips. I'm the special event manager with Southwest Human Development, and the title's a little misleading because I do a lot more than just plan events, but this is one of our favorite programs that we have. It's so exciting to see what you students are submitting, and it's also just very, as if you saw the introduction video, it's one of those programs that just touches your heart because you and all of us are doing really good work to help children that need that extra support. So we're thankful for you, and you'll keep seeing my emails as we go through the process. How about you?
Awesome. Beth, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Beth Rank. I work at the Southwest Human Development Adapt Shop. I'm an occupational therapist by training. I feel like now I get to do a little bit of everything because I never quite know what a family is going to need when they walk in the door. So sometimes we're looking at something to help someone sit on the toilet. Sometimes it's changing a bike. So we never quite know, but it's always fun and interesting. Excited to see what you guys come up with for Reese, and it's welcome, and ask any questions that you have. We're happy to help.
Awesome. And we'll save Reese for last, since she's the special one. Jennifer, could you share about yourself?
Sure. So I'm a professor at Arizona State University, and I specialize in bioelectronics, so things that are meant to help humans from the engineering side. So I'm here for any technical expertise. If you want to know anything about engineering, I'm the person to ask. And I really enjoy doing things that improve quality of life for people. That's really my passion. And I'm an educator because I love passing that on to other people. So hopefully I can do a little bit of that here.
Awesome. Thank you. And Samantha, you can introduce both yourself and Reese.
Hello, I'm Samantha. This is Reese. I am her mother. We are excited to see what you guys can come up with and how creative you guys can be, because I am not the creative type. Everyone has helped out tremendously throughout this whole process, and I'm excited.
Awesome. Thank you. Big thank you to Samantha and Matt and Reese for allowing us to work and help Reese. So obviously we're hoping that we come up with some real whiz-bang ideas that are going to be able to put to use. But we hope this is a real rewarding experience for all the students who are working towards that. So let's get into the questions.
Okay, but first, let's do some raffle drawings. So I need, Samantha, can you give me a number between 1 and 159?
How about 87.
87. Okay, our winner is Alex Lee. You win a $10 Sonic gift card.
All right,
Yay.
Alex.
Jennifer, can you give me a number between 1 and 159?
How about 3?
And that winner is Asa Alvarez. And they get a $10 Starbucks gift card. Let's do one more. Beth, give me a number between 1 and 159.
Let's go with 74.
74. That's Jenny Jimenez Hernandez. Okay, and Jenny gets a $10 Chick-fil-A card. All right. Okay, let's go back to what we're here for, the questions.
Congratulations to all winners. So this is going to be for Reese's occupational therapist and Samantha. When you're thinking about other devices that you've trialed with Reese, what are some things that have not worked well in the past? So Beth or Samantha, feel free to jump in.
Samantha, do you want to start or do you want me to take it to start?
Go ahead and start. I gotta think through everything that we've tried.
Well, I mean, think about like typical baby equipment that you started in when she was really little, and then probably go from there. Like what worked really well when she was a baby?
She's always liked movement, so her baby swing has always been a big one. I still have that up because she still fits in the weight parameters on it. So she still sits in that. We've tried like crawling type apparatus that try to help her crawl. We've tried the Crawligator, and Beth, you have one of these at your place. It's not the Crawligator. I think it's the Creepster.
Creepster crawler.
And it just, she hasn't been able to figure it out. So being on her stomach and trying to use her arms and hands has not been successful. What else don't we like?
I'll just give them a quick explanation of the Creepster crawler just so everybody can kind of visualize what you're talking about. It's like a frame that has 4 wheels on it, like on the outside of the frame, and then it's kind of like a little table, and then it has a harness where she hangs under in like a crawling position under the table. So then what about like when you started getting her upright more into standing?
We have been working on like sitting and just kind of getting her to engage core muscles. So like corner sitting to start with, and then we put her in like the baby bouncers, the ones that her favorite one is it's the baby Einstein baby jumper, where you like put her in and she's suspended on like 4 bungee cords, and then there's like toys around it and she can kind of jump in it and move around in it to keep her attention.
Did she like that?
Yeah, she really liked that one. I have lots of videos of her laughing and jumping in that.
Okay. And then as she got bigger, what became hard about that? Was it just that she was too tall, that she had more weight on her upper body that made it hard for that to be supportive?
No, because the way you sit her in it, it's kind of like a seat. So you like put her in it, but her legs are free so she can weight bear. She just got too tall for it, so there wasn't enough support within the seat to be able to support her. And then also the toys got too short. So since she has a processing disorder where it's really hard to see anything below visual field, the toys weren't engaging anymore. So she wasn't able to see them. Oh, hold on. She doesn't like this song. And then like there were certain toys that she did like on it and certain ones she didn't really do much. There was one that was kind of like, I guess, like a rain stick. You can like spin it and then the beads inside would make a noise as it spun. So movement and noise and lights and shiny are all things that she likes.
What about, I think we tried the tot stander at the DAP shop. Did we
She likes to be weight bearing. She did like the tot stander. I mean, Jen put her in there for the first time. I think we got 45 minutes out of her without trying.
Okay, and for everybody that doesn't know, the tot stander is like a piece of wood on the ground, has two poles that come up on long side of her, and then there's straps that go in between the poles to kind of hold her at important points. So kind of around her pelvis and waist, and then there's another one that's up closer to her chest.
And then there's one at her knees to keep her knees straight.
Yeah, and at her knees too.
As you guys are talking, I'm searching for these items and then putting links in the chat. So if you guys are following along, hit those links in the chat and you can see like the Lucky Tot Stander. So you guys just kind of keep the conversation going and I'll manage that.
And then Samantha, I'm trying to think what we started first with for walking. Did we ever put her in like a Riften gait trainer?
No, we went straight to the My Way.
Okay, so I think, you know, for people that want to look at, the Riften is a kind of a basic gait trainer that we often start with. The reason we probably did not try it with Reese is I probably felt like it just didn't have enough support. And it also is kind of a heavier device. So that would have been hard for Reese to move, although I think it would have held her. We could have put enough support on it to hold her, but I don't think she would have been able to move it forward because it's just kind of a heavy piece of equipment. And do we ever try the kid walk?
No, I think we went with we put her in the My Way because it was a little bit smaller. And then I think it was new at the time, so you weren't super used it was like a newer apparatus, and so you were just trying to see if she fit in it, and she started weight bearing and she started moving it by herself pretty quick within just putting her in it.
All right, that's quite a few different things you guys have cycled through over the years. So it sounds like she can push with her legs and bear weight at least a modest amount. Could you share maybe a little bit more around that?
She is pretty weight bearing for limited time by herself. We had at the end of our physical therapy with early intervention, she was able to pretty much step and start doing the rocking movements with some guidance by our physical therapist and by myself. So like I would hold her from behind and kind of walk with her, and the physical therapist would kind of like tap parts of her leg to get her leg to move in the direction we wanted it to. So she'd tap the quad to get the quad to pick up, and then kind of get her to do the whole swing in the gait part. We were working on sidestepping with like on the couch, so using the couch as like support and us being behind her and kind of shifting her weight for her so she could move side to side. But she can push through her body, and she can push through her legs on her own. She does like sit to stand on her own pretty well.
Excellent. And then what are some of her physical therapy goals? Maybe think near term, 3 months, 6 months, a year.
I think right now the focus is on getting her used to walking, just going through the motions of it with any kind of assistance. So someone kind of putting her legs through it, someone able to kind of help her shift her weight. That way she can make those connections between her mind and her body, and get used to walking by herself.
Excellent. Beth, do you have anything to add before we hit the next questions?
No, I'm good.
Awesome. All right. So Let's talk about Reese's height, weight. How big is she?
At the doctor's office, she was like 33.5 inches tall, head to toe, and she was about 20 pounds, 8 ounces, give or take a few ounces right now.
Excellent, excellent. And then I know we just kind of talked about a lot of the technology that she's used in the past,
Mhm.
but if you could pinpoint, one intervention, whether it's technology or therapy or anything else, what are some things that you guys have seen success with?
I think that the stander has been really nice, just allowing her to really engage her pelvis and her hip joints and her legs in that standing position. Um,
Samantha, when you say stander, are you talking about the tot stander or a different
Yeah.
one?
the tot stander.
Okay.
And she really liked that one. She just grew out of the tot stander, so the next size up we'd have to get for her to be able to use it more. It was also something that we could put her in, and like the neighborhood kids that are about her age could come and play with her. She'd be right about eye level with her, kind of engage. Apparently she likes this song.
She's having more fun than any of us, that's for sure.
What song is it, Samantha?
I don't know if I should say. It's Arcade by Hyper Crush. Not the most appropriate of songs, but she likes the funny noises in it because it sounds like an arcade.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's hit the next slide and see what else we got. And remember, anybody in the audience, feel free to, raise your hand with the little reactions down there or just type a question into the chat. All right, so how much movement can she accomplish on her own?
Not a ton of movement by herself. She's still not really able to sit by herself, and she's not really able to stand by herself.
I think it's a challenge for people to understand that haven't really seen Reese because she moves a lot. I mean, you can see she dances with her arms, she moves her body, she moves a lot, but it's not it's harder for her to have that stability to like hold a position, to hold herself in sitting or hold herself in standing. But she does move her limbs a lot. She has good range of motion in her arms and legs and body.
And I do just want to add that all of the students who received the challenge received a link to the physical therapy session we filmed, and I think that gives a really good overview of how she's able to move and some of the prompts that the physical therapist does with her, such as tapping her leg and how she was able to or not able to move in the gait trainer. So I just want to make sure that the students remember to refer to that. They had a link in their guide packet.
Yeah, as long as like you stabilize her like core, she's able to do a lot more with her limbs. But if she has to really focus on her core being stabilized, she's not able to do quite as much by herself. If that helps explain it a little bit better.
And I noticed Jacob Dowdle joined us. He's actually our Adapt Shop fabricator, so he's the one building the assistive technology. Jacob, do you want to say anything joining us?
No, it all looks great.
All right. So if you guys have any questions specifically about how the Adapt Shop creates things for Reese, feel free. Jacob's here to answer those. Is Reese hypersensitive to any materials? Anything that they need to avoid using in fabrication?
Nothing like that she doesn't like. She does like the furry, like extra fuzzy material, like a carpet or like a chair. But nothing to avoid. She's fairly adaptable to different materials.
Awesome. Obviously, no one's using sandpaper. They'll use materials we all like, so we'll leave that one out. Okay, so let's learn a little bit more about Reese. We're curious to know, like, what is her routine like? What sort of activities does she engage in a daily manner?
All right. Well, right now we're currently sleeping through the night, which is a big deal at the moment.
Wow, nice.
She's even happy about that one. And I do a lot of work with her on the floor. I keep having her try to roll, work on engaging all of her muscles, which seems to have been one of the biggest things that we've been able to do to help her, since I've really just done a lot of floor work. I mean, 3-4 hours a day playing on the floor.
Mm,
She really likes it. She's now starting to be able to see a lot more. So the infant mats with like the toys that hang above her head, she's finally starting to really reach at and grab for. We've made our own makeshift one so we can add like a whole bunch of toys that she likes, and just really try to get her comfortable on the floor, getting her to roll. We work at sitting like on the couch and in chairs. We do
so it sounds like a lot of
thinking.
therapeutic play.
Yeah, a lot of
Okay.
therapeutic playing. She's just now starting to really have purposeful hand movements to things that she likes. That took about 2.5 years, 3 years to really get her interested in grabbing at things. So she'll like grab for her bottle, but the bottle's still a little bit too wide for her to actually grab onto. So she can't actually like bring it to her mouth. But if we're holding her and assisting it, I usually try to work with her on it. We try to give her objects that are a little bit more narrow, so she can grab her hands around it as opposed to like something the size of her bottle where she can't grab it.
Does Reese have favorite shows, textures, songs, colors?
Reese right now is on a King Julian kick. She likes the Aquanauts. We were big into Frozen and Monsters Inc. and Despicable Me. Not the Minion movies, the Despicable Me movies. There's a difference. Songs, her main song is Diamond Rio, Meet in the Middle. Like, calm her down. Love that song. But she likes a multitude of genres. Really, the only genre that she doesn't seem to as interested in is like pop music. But she likes older country, 80s, 90s country, obviously with Diamond Rio. She likes Hyper Crush, so she likes the electronic music. She's really into a reggae kick at the moment. So like I said, we run the gamut when it comes to music. Textures, she does like the like really fuzzy, soft, like longer strand materials. But that's just because it's engaging and she can grab onto it. It gives her something to play with. Colors. Currently, her favorite cup that she actually like grabs for and can actually bring to her mouth has like a hot pink top and a purple body. But she also likes the with her CVI. She really likes the high contrast, like black and whites.
CDI.
CVI, cortical visual impairment.
Okay.
So she just has a processing disorder with her vision, in that she sees, but it doesn't get processed correctly. So it's a little bit harder for her to understand what she's seeing, which is why she likes lights and the high contrast.
And then what does food look like for her? How does she eat? What's food therapy working for her?
We are currently trying to get her oral motor skills under control. So we do a lot of tongue movements of trying to get the food to move from side to side, being able to push it back and swallow correctly. Since she's now starting to reach for stuff and grab for stuff, we can leave spoons out for her and she'll grab the spoons and bring them to her mouth. So
Great.
we're working on that part as well.
All right, let's look at the next set of questions. All right, Jennifer, showtime. How long should this solution ideally last? And I assume this means by her age and growth rate, what typically we look for with something like this.
Yeah, so I think that would be my thought as well, because she's going to grow, right? So kids grow really quickly. I'm a mom. I know my kids sometimes grow out of things in less than a year, but I would say we do want to make everything really as robust as possible. So made to last, because if something does break, that can be a safety hazard for Reese. And we want to be really careful that we're not creating any safety hazards. But I would guess if you design something, I usually use the roll myself. I try to make it last twice as long as I actually intend it to last. And that way I'm always a little bit better than it breaking on the last day. So if we think about maybe this is something that's going to last for a couple years, even if she grows out of it within a year or 2 years. So we want to try and, maybe design it to last 3-4 years. And if it's adjustable, that would be great. And you could design it to last even longer as an adjustable item.
So there's the durability there as well as kind of the sizing for her growth that they
Right.
out.
Right. And I know, as a mom trying to save money, I bought things that could grow with my kids. And I'm sure, you probably want to do the same thing. So if you have things that get taller over time, then those can be used a lot longer. So maybe the kids can think about that.
Awesome. And then doorways. I mean, a rolling walker of some sort's got to go through a doorway. Beth, this might be better for you. What are some of the standard widths that we look at?
I did want to just add, Medicaid generally says 5 years for a device as far as paying for it. And when they would pay for a new one, you can justify getting it sooner if the child has outgrown it and no longer fits. But 5 years is generally what Medicaid says for how long a device should last. Doorways, gosh, Jennifer, do you have those numbers off the top of your head? I feel like it's you get some doorways that are 32, I want to say, but
I think 2 feet would be really nice if it could be that narrow, but there may be some stability issues that could be a challenge with that. I'm trying to recall, there are standards for doorways, but that may be a little dependent too on your life situation. Sometimes there are doors you would have to go through, like something that's not in a not built in a building that meets standards. Are there any narrow doorways that you can think of that you pass through with Reese?
Samantha?
I haven't come across anything yet. One thing is we have the Bugaboo stroller, like the full size stroller, and it doesn't necessarily, there are some I want to say turnstiles that we've gone through at like the zoos and stuff that make it hard. It's a little bit too narrow for it. But that would be like the only thing that I could think of is something like that. Maybe a bathroom stall if we have to get her in and out of it, but I'm not. But those would be like weird random ones. I don't think we're trying to.
But your home has traditional size doors.
Yep.
Okay. I know that some of the older houses in like downtown Phoenix might have narrower doors, but it sounds like you're
in a new build in the outskirts.
Awesome. All right. Next questions.
I think that is it.
All right.
In terms of the advanced questions. So now we can open it up.
All right. So anybody have questions? And otherwise you just have to hear me ask questions. All right, well, I'll ask a question. Jennifer, what are like some of the main, you've been a judge in this challenge for many years. What are some of the biggest things early on in the challenge that these students should be thinking about as they craft their solutions?
So I think one thing that I really like to see is something that's convenient for the parent to use. If you have a piece of equipment for a child that's really heavy or really cumbersome, hard to move around, then it's not really, you know, it's not really something that would get used a lot. I know we all have things in our house that we thought were great, and then it turns out it's so hard to carry it with you. It's so hard to take to the park, so hard to take on this, you know, trip that we're going on that you just end up not taking it. So try to think a lot about the parents. You know, as you hear, you know, this is a really dedicated parent who's spending a lot of time working with her child. You don't want to try and make her life more difficult by having something that's hard for her to manage. The other thing, I guess, is really safety. I know we have some of that in the rubric, but we want to make sure that everything is safe for the child. I would never want to design something and provide it to a child that they would then fall or get hurt. So anything that is potentially sharp edge or something that might cause her to fall, anything that's not going to really keep her safe, that's something we're looking for. We want to be sure that things are safe and easy to use.
Excellent, excellent. We'll get a good question here in the chat. And then Micah, I'll come to you afterwards. So they say in terms of the music implementations, what sort of sound system is expected? And I think this last question here is it something that Reese could or should be able to control, or the parents? Beth, Jennifer, anybody open up?
Samantha, do you want to tell them about what we did the last time when you were at the DAP shop with the mobile car?
What
Just
well,
with giving an idea of like what Reese can do as far as like pushing something and activating it.
yeah, we can do something like that. We were talking at the DAP shop too when we were there about maybe some kind of switch, but I don't know how feasible it is for Reese to be able to control her music.
Do you think that she's gotten more consistent? So when she was at the DAP shop last, we had her in a toy car that we had added a bar to, that when she pushed forward, it would go forward, or if she pulled back, it would go back. Do you feel like she's gotten more consistent with the responses and the going forward and back with that toy?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing some consistency with it. Some repetition does help with that.
Do you, in your ideal world, if you could get anything designed the way you wanted, do you think we could make something that would play music when she steps that would be motivating for her to go?
Yes, I think that would definitely help keep her motivated. Like if she does step and there is noise like associated with it, or music, or something that lights up that gets her attention, it would definitely help with the motivation factor of the apparatus.
But the ability to like press a button to play or pause music, that would have to be a pretty large macro sized switch versus...
Yeah, a button, or I think more like a joystick would be more along the lines of if they were trying to do it for Reese, because then you don't have to be as accurate. You kind of can swipe through it as opposed to like pushing down on it.
There's also things called proximity switches that you just have to get close to and then it activates it. So there's all kinds of different switches that, you know, if Reese understood well enough how to operate it, I think she could be pretty consistent with making it go.
All right, excellent, excellent. Thank you. Thank you for the question, Nick. I'll go to Micah next, and then I'll hop back into the chat. Micah, you can unmute and ask your question.
Okay, so what height clearance do you prefer her to have? So like how tall would you like the walker, or what we're making her to be?
I mean, I would look back at your feasibility and think about like, it shouldn't be taller than a doorway. She's got to be able to run it in her house. So if you're going to have, you know, a really tall device that you're using something to hang from, it's got to fit in a standard doorway. So I don't know, what no higher than like 5 feet, I would think. Jennifer, what do you think?
Yeah, I guess I'm having a little trouble imagining what you're thinking about. There are some of those swings that can be suspended from a doorway, but then they're adjustable if that's what you had in mind. But if it's something you're going to build that is stabilized on the ground, then yeah, definitely you wouldn't want to be more than 6 feet to fit through things. But again, I'd go back to being cumbersome for mom or dad to move around.
I would go back and look at what's already designed too. So look at how tall that My Way, the Lucky My Way is. And then there's another one actually that's made by Kaye, and it has like very old school looking walkers that are kind of that bright, shiny aluminum, but they have a suspension component to it that you can attach onto that gait trainer so that it's kind of high and above. So I would check the dimensions on that and kind of maybe see if you could stick to similar than that. But I would say definitely needs to go through a doorway, so don't make it any taller than that.
Be really careful too about your center of mass. If the center of mass is really high, then there are things that will tip easily. So be sure, especially on things that are taller. That's why you'll see a lot of the gait trainers are not as tall as a kid. They're a bit shorter. That's again just to make sure the stability is really good.
And I think that's a really good point. And you can see, like, if you look at the My Way, the way it's kind of shaped is that has those long legs kind of in the back and down. And I think that's how they get away with having it be taller, because they distributed that weight lower.
Excellent. And then I believe, Luann, confirm if I'm correct here, but we did include Reese's measurements, the height and the weight, like we discussed earlier in some of the materials we sent out to the team. So if you needed to know, from the floor to the length of her legs as you're developing it, those measurements are available for you.
Yes, we used the Lucky My Way gait trainer as an example and put her measurements in related to that. And that is in the guide attachment that all of the students received.
Excellent, excellent. So in the chat, we've got Shamala mentions, I think this is when we were talking about the joystick or the buttons, those movements she isn't able to reflect yet, but happen as she touches them. Shamala, if you want to unmute and provide some context around that, that would be wonderful.
Yes. About she making these contacts purposefully. If I heard, she is developing some of it, but it is these bars she mentioned about, whether when she touches these bars, it is not actually she's trying to move, but somehow she touches the bar. Is it intentional? Is she able to touch those intentionally?
I think it's some of both. I think Reese does understand and wants to move forward with things that she really understands, or I think music would be motivating enough. I think she if she had the ability to repeat that movement, she would be able to do it, and it would be a volitional thing to do. But you do see, like, in the video right now, she does have a lot of extraneous movements that she is not necessarily doing with purpose.
Sure, thank you.
She is starting to get more purposeful movements, especially in her arms. So like if she wants my phone and she sees that I play with it, she will like reach for it. But it's got to be something that she knows is going to do something for her. Like the phone usually plays music for her, and it usually lights up. So she really likes that.
Okay.
Beth, maybe I can ask you from a therapeutic point of view, that there's that motivational aspect. And I know in some other cases we've designed larger interactive surfaces that then are, diminished in size to motivate and to work up to a more precise motor skill. Is that something that would benefit Reese?
I mean, yeah, I think some of her movements are so big that you could, if she were to have more of a target and you were to try to target those things, I think that would make a difference. Like, I guess I'm thinking about like, not that game with the circles on the ground where you have your little targets with your feet. Like if you were to start with a really big circle and then get smaller with her steps or, her arm movements or whatever. And if it played music and you can make it smaller, I guess that would be a way to kind of try to help her control those movements in a more targeted way.
Excellent, excellent. Douglas, if you are still have that question, you can unmute and ask that now.
You mentioned before she can't see, like she can't look down. What are the parameters for that? Because I'm thinking, do we want to test, like try to exercise that, or is that
She
just not?
she can look down, especially if there's like movement. So if like the lights move in front of her, it will stimulate like a reaction to them. Um, it's and it's not that she can't see it, it's just not as engaging as something at eye level or above, if that makes sense.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
So Samantha, she doesn't have any visual field loss. It's just
No.
that her active vision tends to be in front of her or above her more.
Yeah. And you can usually get her active attention drawn in a specific direction with movement of some sort. So like if I have Mardi Gras beads happen to be one of her favorite toys right now. They're metallic, they're shiny, they're bright. I can like swing them in front of her and then she'll see them and then she'll reach for them. Where if I just let them sit on the table, she's probably not as likely to see them or to interact with them because they're not engaging enough for her.
Awesome, awesome. We had a question in the chat that I think we answered earlier about particular type or genre of music, and she likes everything except pop. So sorry, Taylor Swift, you're out. We have a question here from Anna Tran. If she were to use an apparatus, how long should it take to see evident progress? That's a great question. And Beth, I think this would be a good one for you with your experience working with many children.
It's really hard to put an exact time on that, and different children are going to show progress in different ways. So some kids were happy just to have them stand and have both of their feet down on the ground and be holding their own weight. Some kids were, they're able to take some steps and they're going to walk across the room, and we're looking for that. But I guess what my point is that if Reese can get into this device and I think she's safe and she's upright and she's standing, I think that's for the whatever level, that's a great goal. But if she could get into it and move it forward, that would be even a better goal. We're not looking for perfect movement for Reese. Reese is probably not going to have a typical step forward, but if she can move a device forward in a room, that would be a really great goal for her.
All right, all right. Another question here from Nick. How does she do with straps, other, ways to restrain her and support her in these different devices?
Reese has been fairly tolerant of everything we've put her in. Anything from straps to supports. The thing that's really the most that she doesn't like has been when we've added like head restraints to some of the devices. And not like restraints, but just to like keep her head from going side to side. She does like to like stick her head and try to get around it, so she doesn't like those as much, but everything else has been pretty fair game.
I agree. She's very tolerant and easy to work with as far as getting her in different supports and trying different devices.
Excellent, excellent. All right. Well, we'll start to wrap up. If you have any more questions, now's your chance to ask them. I think we've heard, pretty good from anybody. Beth, do you have any final remarks or advice to share with our makers?
I think it's important to kind of do a little bit of research on what's out there already, so you can kind of glean some ideas about what might work the best and not. I think Jennifer gave you a really good hint about paying attention to that center of gravity and where the body weight falls in the device. If you can hang some weight in it and I guess push it through a doorway that has a threshold, see if it tips. Those are things that I guess I would practice and make sure it's safe. That's
Excellent.
all I have.
Douglas, another question. Go for it.
Yeah. So if we do end up building something, would you rather it be kind of a add-on to what you already have, or do you want us to build a whole new thing?
I think the objective is to start new, to do something new, because I think it would be difficult to add on to the My Way, I guess. It's kind of already its own device. So I would say starting new, if you want to build off of those designs, I don't have a problem with that. I think that's fair game. But I would say build from the bottom up.
Okay, thank you.
I agree. Without physically having that piece, it would be very, very difficult to do any add-ons. I would say though, if as you're developing your full piece that you're going to build yourself and you have this wonderful idea, if only you had access to it to do an add-on, feel free to use that as an addendum to your solution. It's not going to hurt anything, and I'm sure we would love to see it. There we go. Jennifer, any final thoughts or questions for the makers?
I think my final comment is that we're here. If you have questions in the process, if you come up with an idea and you're not sure if it's a great idea or if there's something glaringly, obvious about what's going on, you run into any roadblocks, reach out. I'm really, I'm happy to talk to people. I am on the engineering side, so I might have to defer to Beth or someone else if it's more on the therapeutic side. But I know I'm really happy to talk to you guys. So please reach out, ask questions, stay in touch.
Excellent. Samantha, any final words from you?
Well, I was reading the last question that was put up, how much technology skills we got. We're fairly pretty tech savvy in the fact that we can figure out how to use stuff, but not enough to write my own code or do a lot of problem solving in the tech world. But we can use technology.
Well, you know what code is, so that's already a good sign for your ability to work these devices.
Just one along those lines, if you go and look at the My Way, and it may not be clear in the pictures, but that piece of equipment has a harness that's on the front of it, and then it has an attachment point around the chest, attachment point around the waist. They're all color coded, because when you have a child who has a disability and you're doing your best to hold them and do everything else, you want to make it as simple as possible for the parents just to be able to clip in where they need. The red goes to the red, the black goes to the black. Those kind of things are important just because it makes it easier for the family to use.
And the seat has the little indicator too. If it's put on correctly, it's green. If it's not put on correctly, it's red. But the hardest part was figuring out those wheels, Beth. How to lock them, because there's a two-part locking mechanism. One locks them from turning in a circle, so you can lock them to go forward in a direction or back, and you can even prevent them from going backwards.
Yep.
And so it was quite a task figuring out those wheels.
Yep.
So this solution, if I understood, is for walking only, or also should be able to assist her with sitting if she doesn't want to walk anymore?
That's kind of up to you. Reese is not a kid who has cardiac issues, that gets really tired, who needs to take a break. There's other devices that have seats built in them that you can kind of the kid takes 5 steps and then it's okay, let's take a break because your breathing rate's too high and we want to give you a chance to recover. But Reese is not a kid like that. She has a lot of energy. She should be fine to go for 20, 25 minutes in a device without worrying about sitting down. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, very good, very good. Thank you.
And I just have to add, please watch the video that we sent the link in about the physical therapy session, because you will see it provides a step-by-step of Samantha and the physical therapist putting her into the harness for the gait trainer, and it shows all the steps, connecting the colors, etc. So it really shows also how many points of protection she has in that harness itself. So again, I want to stress, please look for that link in the guide and watch that. That will give you a lot of insight into how she's already using the Gateway Trainer.
Jennifer, I have a quick question for you. So when we've talked about things that we design in the Adapt shop. You know, I think there's been like this unspoken rule that it needs to be maybe 15% different than something that already exists. What is the real amount of how different something needs to be before it would be approved as a new device? Do you know that answer?
Oh, that's really tough. So I think it has to do with what perspective you want it to be new. There are a lot of rules about it being new from an IP or patent protection perspective that may not be so interesting here. And then the other is the FDA perspective. So whether the FDA will require this to go through as a de novo or there's a predicate device. So I don't know if those are relevant to this competition. I don't know, David, maybe you want to jump on what do we consider new?
I think at the end of the day, we're not looking for a reproduction of the Lecky. You know, we want to see the insight and ideas that this team has, and whether it's taking the Lecky as a base and then, okay, well, I know Reese very specifically could benefit from these 2-3 things. Cool. I mean, even just constructing a Lecky, you know, exactly how they do it would be a engineering masterpiece for you guys to pull that off in 3 weeks. Like, that's not going to happen. But yeah, I mean, the judges are going to really look for that originality and what you guys are adding to it. So what way, shape, or form that turns out, you know, you use your guys' best judgment. And if you want to take, you know, one change and really engineer the heck out of it, and then keep, like Beth was saying, maybe 90-85% of the other apparatus pieces, you know, very similar to something that you might find off the shelf. I think we're for that. You know, the judges, we understand this is a small time frame, and really we're trying to get you guys thinking about it, thinking about, you know, designing for people. And if you're demonstrating that effectively, then we're not going to have, I think it's a balance. It's a balance. Good question. Thank you, Beth. All right. Well, Luann, do we want to do one more raffle?
Question in the chat? I think there was one more question in the chat that.
All right. I think it was just the straps and the technology.
Okay,
I think we're good on the chat.
Okay, good. All right. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to ask each of you to give me 2 numbers, and then I'll fill those in and we'll notify the students. So David, 2 numbers between 1 and 159.
47 and 158.
Right. That's the way to do it. Beth, 2 numbers.
4 and 17.
Okay. And it looks like I only need 2 more numbers. So Samantha, give me 1 number, between 1 and 159.
We'll do 57.
Okay. And Jennifer, 1 for you.
133.
All right. Students, I hope that you were one of those numbers. We'll be notifying your classes.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. You know where to find us. Shoot us emails, give us calls. We are here to help. Mentors are going to be available. So you just let us know. We're here to, you know, help you have a great experience. So let us know how we can do that. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Samantha, Reese. Good to see you guys.
Special guest. Bye, Reese.